I've heard of Below Zero, you've heard of Below Zero. I mean, who hasn't at this point? It came out like 6 years ago. Though despite loving the original Subnautica, I never actually experienced its controversial spin-off for myself. Which brought up the question, can I 100% Subnautica Below Zero? We started off our departure with our legally borrowed water RV, which almost immediately slammed into a meteor, which makes sense why 3 seconds later we faceplant onto the planet's surface. I should also mention with no way to leave. So I tried to make use of the situation by running around the crash zone, collecting scraps of food that somehow appeared on the ground. After getting bored of that, I ran down some weird alleyway that had blanket heater flowers, which also led to the beginning of the game. I entered the water with high expectations of getting molested in the first few seconds, but instead it was actually somewhat peaceful. I started off by breaking this outcrop before stealing one of these baby penguins, which believe it or not stayed in my inventory throughout the entire playthrough. I don't know why I made him go through that, I'd rather not question it. I then found my drop pod, which presented me with my very first achievement. About a minute later, I stumbled upon some random character's eulogy on my sister. Didn't know I had a sister. Anyway, I completely ignored it because reading was apparently too much work, so instead I'll give you a brief breakdown of our purpose on this planet. Our sister Sam was assigned a role on this planet by Altera, which ultimately got her killed, and we're here to do a bit of digging and get to the bottom of why she died. Anyway, I started collecting resources and whatnot for a scanner, which came with unnecessary dialogue, so I spent all night scanning floor and cracking more limestone before... Oh, yeah, Zeus is mad. Get back in the water. So I kind of let my greed take over, as you could see. So I fabricated up a survival knife and found the last sea glide fragment to make that as well. I then got some coordinates to a supply cache, so I moseyed on over and found some very, very interesting new fragments. Apparently they were for something called a mineral detector. There was also a PDA on the floor with another Altera employee, this time talking to my sister about supposedly stumbling into a creature frozen in ice something. At the end he does mention seeing something wrong with the creature's skin, though this could just be brushed under the rug with a simple and easy accusation for blatant racism. It could also account for something different. Something that may or may not have taken place on this planet before. But judging from that mustache, you never know. After investigating that mumbo jumbo, I started interacting with some of the new species, before running into a tiny problem. Storage. Out of anything, storage. I'm not exaggerating when I say materials here were as common as dirt in Minecraft. They were genuinely around every corner. But instead of making a few underwater lockers like a normal person, I instead made a goddamn mineral detector and started screwing around. Now this ultimately led to me getting robbed of that mineral detector a few minutes later by a sea monkey. So I had to slaughter the thing to get it back. But ignoring that, I found this little dock which had a desk I could scan. I also found the remaining fragments to unlock the mobile vehicle-based blueprint in a sea monkey nest, which gave us partial access to construct whatever the hell this is. I also got scared by this crash fish. And yeah, you know, I think it's about time we started expanding our territory, one might say, to the depths and beyond. That's literally what I wrote down. So I made a repair tool for some reason in storage to finally store my collection of rocks, before one might say tossing my nuts over my shoulder like they were my towel after showering, and began swimming towards this new biome. Now, almost as soon as I got here, I was hit with a distress signal, which I kind of took as a nuclear threat until Robin said something about it, so you know, a great start. There were these oxygen plants scattered around the bed of the area, which made progressively going deeper way easier than it should have been, because I'm pretty sure I had just like the standard O2 tank, and since I was like around 140 meters down, you know, oxygen deficiency had its hands around my throat pretty tight. So I was able to get some table coral off the walls, a rebreather blueprint, some good neighborly impressions, you know, could never go wrong with those, and this odd facility. Don't really know how I got here, but regardless, I began running around, glancing at the interesting tapestries on the walls, also known as the rocks. There was also this weird robot voice whispering in my ear the entire time, saying something about needing a new storage medium because his was running off fumes. I'm guessing this thing was his current form, just a big ass cube. So apparently, Robin, I love Robin, offered to transfer its life force into her PDA so his existence didn't get thrown into the deepest pits of the Shadow Realm, and that turned out to be just a splendid idea for Robin here.
Brace.
What? Oh no, I've seen this scenario before.
Transfer complete. How do you feel?
Why do you sound like you're inside my head?
The facility identified hospitable capacity within your cerebral cortex.
Oh my god.
A heart in my head? I offered you my PDA! Get out!
So yeah, I now had an ancient architect living in my head. At least now I can really say with 100% guaranteed I'm not schizophrenic. Only good thing that came out of the situation was the achievement, but other than that, my personal thoughts weren't exactly all that personal anymore. Robin here tries to cope in the most healthiest way possible by telling herself this was all just a mere figment of her imagination, so I just left the facility handing over this headache of an issue to my future self and just continued doing whatever it was I was doing. I used the mineral detector some more to find some sea truck fragments and calverite outcrops for gold and whatnot. I couldn't find the last fragment though because I needed water really bad. My kidneys were seriously getting drier than a Danico thigh bowl punchline. So I went home, ready to quench my thirst until, you know, I get a casual telephone call from this precursor. Basically, he reveals his name was Alan. Apparently, Alan here was like one civilization in one conscious. Does that even make sense? Anyway, he pretty much gave me 3 recipes I had to unlock by running around the entire map finding his stupid ass data, and then that led to me being able to construct him a new body, and yeah, you probably get it, game plot. So with the new goal of getting this guy out of my cerebral cortex, we first needed a sea truck. So I went back to that twisty place to grab the last fragment, which also unlocked another 5 pages worth of stuff for some reason. I then made the mobile vehicle bay, and about a minute later, I fabricated the... What in tarnation? Oh, we're playing the Atari, people. Look at these controls. So I took it for a spin to some coordinates I got a bit ago, which led to this island that had technology and stuff on it. There were some PDA databanks that had some former Altera employees talking about stuff. I honestly don't remember what they were talking about because I don't really think it mattered. But I found a bunch more fragments I already had and some nuts. I also scanned these flowers, thermal lilies, they're pretty cool. They thaw my nuts when I get too cold. And the most important thing of all.
Stop right there, Altera. You're out of bounds.
Marguerite. I don't know why she was here of all places, but she wasn't too happy about me being on her territory. So to avoid getting impaled by her ginormous vanilla M9 bayonet, I had to tell her I wasn't an Altarian. I was even throwing up that one hand sign to let her know I came in peace. And turns out that was the almighty problem-solving key, because she actually spared me and left without a second thought. Don't know what Altera did to make her so hostile towards the company, but I think I cracked the code on why this place was so empty. Anyway, Alan here apparently didn't appreciate Marguerite's humble welcome and started hyperventilating in his own way, but I ignored it because who wouldn't? Instead, I raided the abandoned habitats, scanned a bunch of cool fragments I'll need for later on, and read the PDAs these people left behind. Okay, so I didn't actually read them. There was also this picture of a penguin I could put in my future base, and this map. Now you might be asking, hey Cloud, what's so important about this map? Why was there just a silent 3-second interval of me looking at this thing? That's because this map was actually super important. It was actually like a saving grace in a way, because it gave a decent description of the surfacey parts in the game. And what did I do about it? I ignored it, because of course I did. You know, it's me. What do you expect? I got some, what the hell was this guy eating? This is prison food right here. We got, oh my god, this is a whole PNG of beans. This isn't even real food, they're just paper cutouts. Anyway, outside was a communications tower I checked out and found some very conveniently placed disabling instructions next to its fuse box. Now, I hadn't had the slightest clue on why I was supposed to override the system into test mode, or why it was even giving me an option for this, but I wasn't going to question it. We'll cross that bridge when the time comes, I guess. So as soon as I got back to my sea truck, Alan calls again and talks about something. I don't remember what it was because I didn't really pay attention to this guy. All I know is that he transferred some coordinates to my PDA that led to important technology, which I didn't explore until later in the game. But I started going in a random direction and ended up running into a new biome. Now, this biome was luxurious. It had scenery, tourists, and even more tourists. You know, the good thing about the tourists is that they wanted to touch me, or that's not a good thing actually. The fact is, this region had a variety of creatures that all knew how to gruesomely circumcise any inferior form of life, such as myself, but I didn't really care. I actually didn't even know getting molested here was a possibility. I think that was my first mistake, honestly. I found a piece of a crash ship pretty early in, and my PDA said its name was like the Mercury 2. I didn't really have a great oxygen tank, so I saved diving in its interior for another time. Instead, I slid into one of the neighboring biomes and started riding this new species of whale I found. I'm riding the glow whale. Holy shit, I'm riding glow whale. Where are you taking me, glow whale? Where are we going? Go back to the sea truck. I'm scared. There was also some coordinates in an area my sea truck couldn't exactly reach, so I tried swimming down to them, but turns out they were just baiting me. On the way home, I found a little crash site that had some new sea truck compartment fragments. Then the cherry to top off this whole exploration was this guy. Needless to say, I didn't really like him. You know why? Because this big red testicle tickler tried tickling me. When I finally left that goddamn war zone, I found this PDA summary of Fred complaining about stuff, and when I finally got back home, I finally acknowledged my storage was as miniature as my hippocampus, so I made a builder tool and constructed my very own U-Haul storage unit. After organizing for a while, I didn't really know where to go from here, so I just decided I should probably go back to that ship thing since maybe it had something useful, or at least something that would point me in the direction of the next thing I needed to do. So I upgraded my O2 tank and made a rebreather before getting absolutely sidetracked on something I didn't even need at the time. And that thing was the first MK module for my sea truck. It didn't require a moon pool to make it, and I think that's why I really wanted it. So that's when I randomly decided that was the thing I needed most in life. I mean, on the bright side, its crafting recipe was pretty simple, except for the fact that enameled glass and below zero required diamonds. Want to guess the threat level the area diamonds are at?
Cheese on a cracker. Saw me.
This hazard of a cave was birthed for one singular purpose. Actually, I can't answer that because I didn't even go in. I just found a bunch of diamonds near the entrance. Though, it did sound like legit hell from where I was. Anyway, we got 300 meters to spare now. And with this much depth capability on my battery-powered Razor scooter, it's again time to return to that ship. On the way, I was collecting some silver and started getting into fights with some of the bystanders. They didn't stand a chance though, because, you know, I'm just me. I then spent like 8 to 10 minutes just driving around the entire area, and I couldn't find it no matter what. So you know what I did? I just completely gave up on it. Instead, I resorted to exploring this really deep cave instead, because I found that. My sea truck didn't exactly meet the requirements to go down this deep, but we have a rebreather, so it doesn't really matter. I roamed around for a bit. There were a bunch of crystals everywhere, so I can only assume something higher than me on the food chain lived here. I didn't stay long enough to confirm that theory, but I did snag some kyanite and prawn fragments that were laying around. I then started exploring the more shallow regions and found one of Alan's sites. There was some pretty useless information, so I kept traversing this place, scanning everything that came into view until I found what I assumed to be this game's version of hell. Alan randomly told me this place held a piece to his 3-part Lego set and, you know, encouraged me to go further. That was actually kind of surprising. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty early into the game. I wasn't expecting to actually find one of his vital parts this, like, early on. But this was just our first step of many to getting this Trojan virus out of my head. Though there was one problem. This place is almost 500 meters deep, comboed with it being a replica of one of Dark Deception's labyrinths. Guess that makes it 2 problems. So, you know, I couldn't really do much without a better depth module for my sea truck, because trust me, I tried freeballing it with a rebreather and it didn't exactly go as planned.
You're aggressive and I don't like that. Oh, he drugged me. Oh, he drugged me. What does that mean? What does that do? Okay, life lessons. Don't go near the lily fuckers. Oh, no. What in tarnation is this? Oh, what the fuck? Flowering spore. Spore used in advanced material production. Dude, this place is... I'm gonna fuck.
So the more ideal route was just to come back when I had the MK2 module. So it seems like actually making that first module paid off. Looking at the recipe, I needed a material called synthetic fibers. And to make synthetic fibers, I needed something called plant clippings. Now, I had no clue where to find these things, so I did the most logical thing I could think of and resort to using the wiki. Turns out you collect plant clippings from the inside of a Leviathan class life form. A jellyfish Leviathan class life form. Or you could just get it from the spot I was at. I didn't acknowledge that part of the wiki for some reason. So it was back to base where I ceased my hunger and made a horsepower upgrade for my sea truck. Then it was back to the abyss, where instead of finding the vent garden like I initially planned, I found this. Considering this just decided to appear in my life at a very inconvenient time, I just left it there. And so besides there being an unfathomable amount of scrap in here, I couldn't really get into any of the rooms without a laser cutter. So I scanned the only fragment this entire structure had to offer before returning to the search. Not gonna lie, it didn't really take a lot of effort finding this place, but surviving in it on the other hand, 2 carnivorous parkometers. How delightful. That's basically what these things are. I'd bet money you'd have a higher chance of surviving taking a shot of OxyClean than stay here for more than 15 seconds. Anyway, I reluctantly swam into this thing, tickled its insides a bit, left it compensation, and left. I'd say that was pretty easy, you know, other than the fact we had to come all the way here. But just look at this place. You could turn your head for a split second, and the moment you look back, I guarantee there'll be like a fucking megalodon sniffing your nether region. Crazy thing to say, but it's pretty accurate. Back in the safety of the shallows, I grabbed my plant clippings and everything else to make. So apparently you need a modification station. Why didn't I look this up before? I don't know. Why didn't it should have just clicked, honestly. Like, we're upgrading this module to the next. Of course we're gonna need something like that. I can't even speak. And it so happens to be my lucky day. No diamonds. So back in hell, was I hugging the wall through like 90% of this trip? Sorta. Did I get assaulted in spots where the sun don't shine? You know, maybe. Now, as much as I dread coming to this place, believe it or not, something actually positive came out of it. And it was these sea truck compartment modules. I scanned all the fragments to unlock the storage and fabricated compartments and got the diamonds I needed. If you didn't already know, sea truck compartments basically work as wagons for trains. That's the best comparison I could come up with. There's a ton of them that have their own unique uses, while some borderline useless. However, the ones we scanned were very, and I mean very crucial. Setting that aside, I placed down a modification station and finally made the MK2 upgrade. I also stuck a battery in my knife for fast food, and for a final upgrade before heading back to the depths to try and retrieve Alan's piece, I went ahead and made the storage module.
Oh, it's like it's like the community bus.
Now with a comfortable 650 meters on my sea truck and a whole storage compartment, I think we were ready to return to the deep lily caves. Except that didn't happen. For whatever reason, I stopped at that crystal cave again for what I assumed was more kyanite, even though I didn't need any at the time, and instead I got something that was quite the opposite of pleasing or helpful, to say the least.
What is that? Oh no. Oh no. I'm turning around. What was that? I think that was just... Okay. That might have been a passive guy. Like, you know those rays in the Lost River in the first game? Okay, even if he was a passive guy, where the hell did he go?
Seems as my suspicions were right on. To be fair, all I really saw was a tail, and you know, there's a lot of creatures that have tails and don't crucify you on sight, like stingrays and whales and Are narwhals even real? I mean, I'd say these are all relatively safe creatures to be around. So what's the harm in assuming this thing was moderately passive? I mean, come on. Oh, who am I kidding? Usually anything big and black is the complete opposite of passive. Stepping in this thing's peripheral vision was like stepping in front of one of these things. Anyway, I think I finally locked in because I made the fabricated compartment. And yeah, I was right. We're back at this place. Okay, so he didn't exactly give me an exact location of where this facility was supposed to be, which taxed my patience greatly. It doesn't exactly feel nice turning a corner 5 consecutive times leading to the same spot you were just at. On the bright side, this place had a pretty wide assortment of materials, so I stocked up a bunch for future shenanigans. And alas, after constant circles, I finally found an entrance. Letting myself in, I find a very peaceful environment with the corpse just in the middle of the room. Guess we're going to use the skeletal structure of one of Alan's deceased comrades as the main foundation to his new body. Yep, just average everyday scenarios. I just realized, what if Alan turned out to be a terrorist? Like, he hasn't told us anything about his past or why his subconscious was even stored in the first place. Anyway, this place wished me farewell by taking one of my limbs, and while I was kidnapping some bladderfish to quench my thirst, my PDA brought up there being another piece of the mercury around. And oh, hey, would you look at that? It was 20 feet to my right. Now, I don't know exactly how long this thing's been marinating in brute shark piss for, but just by looking at it, it's been a while. Inside there was a few prawn fragments and whatever else in these crates. I also got some Chinese potatoes out of them, so that's basically a lifetime supply of food. The majority of the ship's rooms and crates were sealed off, because of course they were. However, despite the paywall, there were at least a few rooms I could explore. And then I found some PDAs left behind by the now obviously deceased crew going over their stay at this 5-star resort. The ones I found sorta scraped the surface of their journey's origin. The only relevant character in my opinion was this person named Diana, aka the captain of the ship. And since I'm too lazy to explain this story in my own terms, I'm gonna just use this simplified version I found on the internet. Several decades before the events of the original Subnautica, the Mercury 2 was shot down by the direct hit and landed the ship somewhat attacked in a region. That's where they began experiencing Kara and the aggressive wildlife, which undoubtedly did a number on the crew. They were at their breaking point, which caused Diana to propose this.
I have to leave the quarantined crew in the cave behind, telling them that we will come back. But I don't think I can land here safely. Twice. I hate this. I have to leave them behind.
Yep, good old 4546B. From there I didn't have access to the rest of the PDAs because, like I said, paywall. Though I'm just gonna explain the rest of the story anyway. Actually, these PDA lines should summarize everything perfectly.
Elliot finds evidence of alien architecture on a completely uncharted planet, and he expects me to ignore that? Huh. Orion's belt. I would be an absolute fool. He'll learn to trust my instincts at some point.
People went flying out the side of the Mercury.
Moral of the story, don't be greedy. Or Diana. Try to make history, but became history. Awesome lore. I'm sure 85% of you didn't get the slightest fuck like me. Anyway, continuing with our endeavors, I scanned a bunch more stuff. The more important things being a water filtration machine and 2 parallel processing unit fragments. Still needing a laser cutter, I once again resorted to have the wiki breastfeed me wisdom on the fragment locations, and I immediately got to work on it. I started off searching sea monkey nests since I'd figured they'd probably have the highest chance spawning there, but what I found wasn't laser cutter fragments. No, it was something a little bit more... I don't even know. It was Marguerite. Again, don't know what her problem with Altera was or why she kept associating me with him. Maybe the sight of Paul getting devoured and years of social isolation was starting to get to her. Or maybe it was just that time of the month, who knows. Aside from the achievement, I dived in through her moon pool, scanning her Fallout 4 customized prawn, before attempting to invade her personally.
I told you to stay off my land.
Robin tries starting some kind of mutual conversation about her sister. You know, I completely forgot we even had a sister. But Marguerite just stands there, mumbling the word Altera over and over again to herself. She snaps out of her trance and has this edgy anime character moment where she stared at the ground, contemplating her thoughts. Eventually, she makes a decision where she'd tell me about my sister if I did her the tiny solid of shutting off the communications tower. You remember the one from earlier? I'm sure by now a few questions would have arisen, like how did she survive against a Leviathan? Or why was there a 400-pound hound in her base? How many licks does it take to get to the center of my balls? You know, a whole lot of questions that I don't know if I really wanted answered. On the table is the main element to make this plan happen, a test override module, which is supposed to be accompanied by the parallel processing unit for it to actually function. Problem is, I still didn't unlock its blueprint because I was still in the middle of getting laser cutter fragments. So before continuing on that, I scanned a Snow Fox fragment and stole the Sea Truck defense upgrade. Also, can't forget the PDA on where Marguerite talks about her survival on that very faithful day. It wasn't even like a traumatic event for her. It was like a fucking carnival ride. Leaving her Fent facility, I got the Moonpool blueprint and ventured off into one of the biomes she lived beside. I found the small site which gave me the Spy Pingling blueprint, which I needed for a future achievement, and this very questionable invention called the water filtration suit.
Water filtration suit reclaims moisture from the body and provides clean drinkable water. What? No, that's... no. No!
There was also another entrance leading into the crystal biome, which further convinced me that whatever god sculpted the abominations on this planet was off PCP or something of that caliber.
I think that's my cue to turn around and never come back. Okay, no. I'm white. I'm curious. I'm not curious anymore.
Anyway, I wasn't here to deal with that. I'm here to find Laser Cutter. There's another base. There's another base. You know, why do I even try? The Altera members ended up finding some kind of Leviathan that was still infected with Kara, so the company made them research it with the intention of mutating it to weaponize it something something. Sam found out about it and started crashing out. She's also gay. She started... Wait, my sister's gay?
What in tarnation?
At this point, I was kind of tired of everything. Apparently, asking for a laser cutter is like asking to not pay taxes. Occasions like this make me wish that a giant red monstrosity would just swim up behind. I feel like now's a pretty good time to say I have a Discord, and you should join it. If you ever have any video suggestions or just want to talk to me on the random occasion, well, there you go. Links in the description. I'm gonna be real, patience was something that was definitely depleting faster than I'd like, which is why I just watched a Chemical Apes video. After finally putting an end to the eclipse that was blocking the light of progression, I made that piss suit and went back to the Mercury for the final time. Can't really say there was much besides the usual boring stuff, except the last PPU fragment. I also went ahead and broke into some of the rooms in the other piece of the Mercury, which held something no one saw coming. Marguerite's bidding was still itching to be finished, so with both scrambling components unlocked and fabricated, I plug them into the tower, getting myself an achievement and a phone call.
What? Do I just have a cell phone on me? Do I have the latest iPhone?
All right, Altera. You win this round. Come find me at my greenhouse. I'm about 1 kilometer east of your position up on an iceberg.
I waste no time at all to waste an extensive amount of time wandering around the area, questioning if her greenhouse even existed. 31 minutes. That's exactly how long it took me to find her. Why couldn't the creators just put in proper coordinates? From the laser cutter to this, I was taking more blows than a miner on Epstein's Island.
Architect artifact. I don't care. Oh my god. For a second I thought there was closure. But no, there's not any closure. I'm going crazy, man. I really am.
Entering her back cave, she hits me with a wave of dialogue, which I'll repeat in simplified words. Yeah, I knew your sister. That conveniently placed PDA over there will explain how she died. It's no secret that Sam didn't side with Altera's big plan to research the virus, but teaming up with a woman that offered this as a plan is straight lunacy.
Great. Then what you gotta do is seal off the whole cave. I've got just the stuff. Made it for fishing, but it blew the whole ice shelf halfway to deep space.
I can imagine Sam reenacting that one Kratos scene. Yeah, one can assume this is how my sister got baked like a fucking apple pie. Well, we got the answer about her sister. That just leaves Alan, then we can... Wait, how are we gonna get off this planet? I was going home, right? And turns out there was another piece of the Mercury. There wasn't much aside a few supply crates and a music disc, so I didn't really spend much time here. Instead, I spent time working on an actual base, because living in this drop pod was equivalent to living in one of those Terraria NPC speed houses. Guess it's karma. So I spent a good 2 hours or something deciding on a foundation and designing the interior with whatever living essentials I needed. One thing being this jukebox, which gave me an achievement. How was that a living essential? I don't know. Ask Beethoven.
That was an achievement?
After a while, I was pretty happy with how everything turned out. I actually enjoyed the whole process way more because of the jukebox, which led me to making a very logical decision to make one for my sea truck. I also looked up disc locations because I wanted to try to collect all of them. However, one of them caught my eye because it was made by a guy called Divide. He makes some goddamn phenomenal music, I'm not gonna lie.
We have Divide. Oh, we have Divide music. What? Bruh. We need to find this guy. Outpost 0.
I've touched myself to quite a few of his songs. It turns out his Subnautica song made it into the game, so obviously I wanted it. And that's how I found out about an above water region called Sector 0. Not from the map I was supposed to look at earlier. This caused a long chain of events to happen, because I ended up finding a completely different area that turned out to be like super important. I only had access to half the island because the bridge that led to the other parts was missing some hydraulic fluid. Convenient enough, the fragment to make more of it was right next to the empty compartment, so that saves us time, I suppose. Alan then dropped a pretty big bombshell on me, saying another part of his body laid beyond this bridge somewhere, which was the important thing I was talking about. But for now, I just traversed a different area that put me in the Phi Robotics Center. Did I somehow almost freeze to death while trying to find it? You know, maybe. That reminds me of something I haven't really brought up before. Down in the bottom left where the oxygen meter is gets replaced with like a temperature bar when you're above water, with it having a mechanic where the harsher the conditions, the faster it depletes, which is why beforehand I made these thermoses that let you carry hot coffee and You know, I don't know why I'm actually even explaining this. I was gonna make like a below zero penis joke, but at this point it's just like me talking about nothing. Anyway, the inside had a bunch of scannable stuff, obviously. Hover pads, beds, your favorite place, the cold suit, which unlocks another achievement when built. It wasn't gonna be for a while though. Besides that, there were some more PDAs on the infected Leviathan and whatnot. Our Lord and Savior Sam tried convincing the other members to join her cult and rebelling against the Craw experiments. I found this teleporter that had to be powered on through the opposite end, which kind of made me realize I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I made a quick stop home to grab some stuff to make the hover pad and the actual snow fox, since I scanned the rest of the fragments at the robotics center, which is an achievement because, you know, I wanted to start exploring beyond the bridge, which is another achievement. Sorry, Divide, but there were much more other less important things to tend to, unfortunately. Not even 20 feet across the bridge and Alan's already giving me warnings about threats beneath the ice, but that's just a fancy way of saying there's something of value nearby. It may not be money, nor wisdom, nor that tall goth woman you've always wanted, though its value is held in something much greater: freedom. The second recipe we needed for Alan's final form. Now, I will admit, getting to it took a lot out of me. More of it being in the time aspect of things, because navigating this place while being vigorously tormented by ice worms and these stupid ass things was incredibly tedious. Aside from that though, I found some pretty neat blueprints sitting around in a cave full of ion cubes, and that was about all the good, because the rest of my stay consisted of nothing more than, I kid you not, sheer pandemonium.
This is crazy. Ooh, I hear him chasing me. Oh my god, he's legit chasing me. Yep. Can't catch me. And you won't catch me. What the fuck? I'm getting ambushed, bro. Pull it out. Where the fuck did it go? Dude. Where's my snow fox? Dude.
Right before your very eyes, the ground decided to ignore all inner atomic properties and send my snow fox straight into oblivion, which resulted in me being stranded. How did the ground pull off something that David Blaine probably couldn't even do? I don't know. I just hid in a cave for the time being, trying to figure out like somewhat of a plan to get myself out of this odd situation. I tried multiple attempts to go back to the spot it was swallowed, which took a while because of these guys.
Oh my god, there's two of them. Can I get a gun?
But when I finally thought the coast was clear, the game helped remind me with a firm smack on the ass that having such thoughts was idiocy.
Oh my god, no. I'm scared.
So it was pretty clear I wasn't welcomed here. I tried reloading my game to see if that would maybe fix the bug, but of course it didn't. So I just started walking around, pretty much accepting my fate since ice cubes were slowly replacing my testicles. That is, until I somehow found this place. A crack in the mountain lit a path to salvation. A teleporter. Thank God. I really thought I was a goner there. I didn't bring any ion cubes.
I legit didn't bring any ion cubes. Okay.
So I tried drowning myself because my intentions on dealing with this situation differently were very parallel. But yet again, the game gave me another ray of hope, indicating that there indeed was some kind of god keeping me alive for their pleasure. So it seems my retinas were once again going to be engulfed in sunshine and even more fish piss. After that, I just sat in my sea truck for a few minutes listening to music before logging off for the night. The next morning, I got straight to working on making a replacement snow fox. The only problem was I realized I used the only 2 pieces of magnetite I had in my name on the last one, which resulted in 20 minutes of me swimming around the outskirts of the lily caves to get more. The morning's off to a great start, one would say. I also made another pit stop in my base to craft the thumper and the spy pingling, mainly to get the achievements out the way. Then it was back to the dunes, where I made another snow fox, this time wrapped in pink. Fucking Adam Levine would be on his knees for this thing. And went back to one of the many ice worm inhabited areas for the sole purpose of testing out this little device here. The thing is, I knew how it worked. It's just my brain didn't. I stood there for a good 2 minutes staring at it, wondering why there was more activity here than on my 18th birthday party. Anyway, I got off my bike for a second to climb a ladder or something, and what do you know? A familiar reoccurrence appears.
I'm actually gonna kill myself. Why did it go underground again?
In these kinds of situations, I would normalize the use of cheats to counteract the game's bugs, you know. And that's exactly what I did. Continuing down this path, I run into one of those caves my Happy Meal toy could explore, and the best thing I got out of it was, I think it was an ion cube. These crevices were pretty useless, I gotta say, though not as useless as my snow fox against one of these terrorists. So apparently this planet had its own rapture, except it lasted every single night on land. Is this how Guts felt surviving the eclipse? Maybe. Or better yet, Casca the way everything wanted to rape me. Yeah, I wouldn't exactly say I had a great time dealing with everything.
Can you? You're adopted. No, like I'm you fucker.
Regardless, night passed after some time and things mellowed down enough for me to further explore. I'd say like 80% of the time I was here, it was me trying to figure out where everything was. Every corner I turned looked almost identical to the last, though through many repeated circles I found some of Alan's old tech, which apparently uploaded some type of information to this, his consciousness. He gave me the most plain bagel description of where his second part was. There's no way he's taking this serious at all. So I kept searching on my own volition and found this guy having a temper tantrum.
Oh, no, I'm good. What's he doing? Why is he so upset? Oh no, I'm not going out there, no.
So obviously instead of resorting to something more reasonable like fleeing, I took this as an opportunity to go for a second round with the thumper. Still didn't click on how it actually functioned because it's me. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so I thought the circle was supposed to attract ice worms and they'd attack the thumper or something. This is why you read. Anyway, I left it there and came across a graveyard of ice worm carcasses, which allowed me the very rare opportunity of scanning another Leviathan class creature. I didn't stay long because whatever killed these things could probably kill me. And me personally, I don't tend to get all giddy around jaws that probably surpass the PSI of a fucking hippo's. Just listen to these sounds.
Is this just a... what is this?
It was a goddamn war zone. Though like I said earlier, the rewards were beyond worth. Especially this tissue sample. Alan's tissue sample. Holy shit, we found it. Okay, but why does this skin have as many ingredients as like a blue Gatorade? Now it was time to play the fun game called Which Alternate Path Leads Back to My Sea Truck. Though fortunately for me it was night, which meant everything in this icy purgatory was 10 times more attracted to my genitals, so I had to yet again escape multiple frosty devourer gods to even find a resemblance of an exit. Luckily for me, luck was sort of on my side, cause I ended up finding the teleporter from last time and was able to power it on. It spat me out at the Fire Robotics Center, which was good enough for me. I'd rather take the half-mile walk than tread through any more land infested with these bastards. They weren't even scary 90% of the time, it was just they were plain annoying. I made that ice worm defense module while I was here, then just started thinking. Like, what else was there to do? Sure, I still had to find Alan's last body part, but I was like, kinda, I don't know, just stuck. But then I remembered how I even found this place. You know, Sector 0, the disc, Divide Music, completely forgot about it, honestly. I looked at the coordinates because, like I said, maps don't map in my mind. And yeah, I got the disc. There were a few other little things here, like the last prawn fragment and a PDA of my sister saying she stashed away an antidote for the infection in a cave somewhere. But all that compared to this little rejuvenating piece of plastic was nothing more than just some mumbo jumbo. There was also this teleporter outside the crew was researching or something. Don't know, don't care. What I do care about though is this banger of a song made by the sexiest man of all time. Yeah, it was nice being able to hear something other than my own breathing. I really wanted to make the prawn right after because if you ever played the first game, you'd know about that cool grapple mechanic you can do with it. Accelerating at inhumane speeds, one would say. Though before that, I went ahead and contributed some time into decorating my base and making a slightly better power source because my solar panels were just about as useful as having oxygen on somewhere like Venus. But you want to know what scaled even lower? The prawn suit. The prawn has definitely got to be the most underwhelming vehicle in this entire game. Like, it's just so disappointing how nerfed it is. Not only was this thing noticeably less agile, it also got stripped of the grapple feature, which made me want to go back in time and just stop myself from making this. And believe it or not, that wasn't even the worst part. It all kept going downhill when I decided to make a docking module to attach it to my sea truck, which completely weighed it down. Goddamn thing was moving like it had the body weight of a Pokemon summer. Moral of the story is, don't waste your time on making this watered down disability scooter. Just stick with the sea truck. But since I went through the trouble of making this horrid thing, I figured I might as well, you know, use it and try to get some kyanite or something. That is, until I got to the crystal caves where I realized this hunk of junk had the most mediocre pressure resistance. So you know what I did? I got off for the night. That's what I did. Pushing aside the mini crisis the next morning, I swam out to find another piece of kyanite to finally craft the sea truck's final depth module. This moment was like me holding my first handstand. At first, I felt accomplished, like I just did something big. That is until I slightly tilt my pelvis a bit too far back and crash onto the ground like I was one big domino. The metaphor being the only purpose this thing had was giving me an inevitable meet and greet with certain doom.
Oh, he's so majestic. Oh, just stay the hell away from me. I'll admire you from a distance. Why are you getting so close to me? Oh, we're just chill like that? We're cool? Oh, okay. Yeah, we're buddies. We're buddies. We're just chilling. Oh my, what the fuck?
So without wasting a single second, I cruised past the purple vents and docking my prawn to possess a fraction of decent speed. And yeah, it was finally time to strap on my big boy pants and venture into the crystal abyss. I had no idea what I was really expecting to find down here besides a couple rare materials and a big black serpent.
Are you coming this way? Holy shit, he's huge. Repair this. Just repair this.
But maybe, just maybe, Alan's last component was somewhere down here, just waiting to be discovered. Definitely wasn't an easy task navigating my way through here, especially when being stealthy had to be taken into consideration. Each turn felt like I was on a merry-go-round that had bricks stringed to the ceiling that constantly bonked my forehead. That is, until I found this. This may look like any ordinary crevice found on the ocean bed, but it was the inside that was special. On the inside was something that'll determine if it was really worth coming down here. And luckily for me, it was the very thing I sought after.
Organs in all their glory.
We now had blueprints to each one of Alan's body parts, which meant we could finally slap an eviction notice right onto his doorstep, or technically our doorstep. I was wondering how we were gonna actually manage to construct his form, since I didn't think he could exactly fit in my fabricator, but those questions were soon washed away, because when I left that cave, Alan started talking about a fabrication facility something around the area, and that's when I began traversing more in depth into this place to try and find what he was talking about. Luckily for me, this place didn't possess much girth, so I was easily put on the right track. The period clump crystals definitely took me by surprise, but what took me even more by surprise was this. Sorry, them.
What? There's two of them.
I sense the presence of a substantial facility.
I sense the presence of danger in front of me.
Why would anyone build a secret factory that constructs alien body parts here of all places on their own volition? Well, that's pretty easy to answer, because not a single person in their goddamn sane minds would ever think to search here. Something I should also mention is this area of the game had an equivalent circumference to that of a Panda Express to-go box, so avoiding this thing was out of the question. Thankfully, my Zappy module thing played its part spectacularly here, so I was able to squeeze right through him and enter Alan's, I guess, medbay. Building a physical presence needed a whole bunch of materials that I didn't even have on me. Went all this way and ended up forgetting I actually needed resources to do anything, because gosh, I'm so smart. So I ended up leaving for now, but for some reason my underdeveloped Homo sapien mind went straight to pestering the Leviathans outside the sea truck.
Come here. Come here. Where's the exit? I don't even remember where I came from. I'm disoriented. Wait, this is a perfect scanning opportunity. He's stuck. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Hey, come back here. What was that?
Might be second nature doing dumb stuff like this, but I'm not really gonna overthink it because we had more important things to tend to. I dropped the beacon off by the entrance so it didn't take me an eternity finding this place again, and I started doing one of two very crucial things.
Literal pod or colossus penis? I don't know what the fuck. Hey, what is he doing? You know what? It doesn't concern me. He's just doing his own thing, I guess. What the fuck is he doing? You okay, man? Okay, here's your prostate exam. Just stand still, please. Thank you. Oh, we didn't like it.
Okay, maybe this one wasn't entirely crucial, but I wanted to see what Alan's signals led to since they were just there. The first one was pretty easy to find. It was like in one of those kelp forest caves. I unlocked the ion variant batteries and found root pustle, however you pronounce it. But this stuff was actually required to make Alan's tissue sample, so that saves me the trouble of finding it. The second signal was honestly one of the more annoying things to find in this game. There was these series of tunnels you had to carefully scurry through with the sea truck because there was these geyser things. The only reason I even found this place was because I had to look it up because I genuinely never would have guessed to look here.
Bro, they have the audacity to put one of these plants in here.
So after crispening my sea truck's foreskin, I found a PDA regarding the sunbeam's disappearance from the first game. I think this whole cavern was like a mining site of some sort. I didn't really pay much attention to anything here because I was fixated on the signal thing. It was a statue, but not just any statue. If you look really, really close, you can actually see, and the reason he actually marked these on my map was so when I found them, it would help him remember the locations to his body parts. I just technically found everything on my own, and I didn't need to do that. I just got like really lucky. You know what? Never mind. And don't even get me started on getting out of this place.
Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul.
Robin, can you shut the fuck up? Look, it's right there. Just squeeze your fat ass through here. Research hope upgrade. If I get out, am I gonna be burned alive? I literally have to reconstruct this thing like it's a damn Lego set.
After settling into my cozy setting instead of magma pits which made me want to kill myself, I do some basic organizing and housekeeping to just blow off some steam. Also, if you're wondering what happened to my prawn and docking module, well, here's the body cam footage from earlier.
Did I connect?
I was going to force myself to make another one until I realized I had to reconstruct all the upgrades and the arms along with the prawn itself, so I just ended the session by going to bed. Though the next day as I was booting up the game, I started doing that other crucial thing I was talking about earlier, which was actually building Alan. The entire formula was super cheap. I literally had every single component ready to go, except for a single diamond. Now, I thought there was diamonds in that purple crystal cave place, so I was like, hey, instead of wasting time going to its ideal spot, why not just find one around the fabrication facility? Basically killing two birds with one stone, or whatever the phrase is. But unfortunately in my case, guessing wasn't an effective method at all. Calling it the opposite would be a complete understatement, because I spent close to an hour searching everywhere except the place I knew they were at. Time was poured down the drain like the expired milk I had in my fridge this morning. Though the cherry to top it off was me realizing that after all this time, I had one right in my Sea-Truck's locker.
Turn the music off. Turn the music off. I had a diamond in here the whole time. I've had all the components within my reach the entire time.
I think in the midst of everything, when I was tweaking super hard, I was actually like fighting the Leviathan for no literal reason.
Get the fuck off me. Where's the diamonds? Scan it, scan it. Ooh, I got it.
Anyway, I explored this mini biome on the way back to the crystal caves, and there were diamonds there too, so thanks, me. Thank you for being so observant in some of the most inconvenient times. Without any further distractions, I began piecing together Alan's vessel.
What will you do with your newfound freedom?
I must return home to make amends. The escape of the bacteria was an accident. I thought my solution was foolproof. I was wrong.
Did you cause the accident?
Yes.
Wasn't I talking about this earlier? You know, the terrorist thing? Anyway, who cares? I wanted this thing out of my head, so I started the transfer process, directly giving him full control over this hollowed centaur, one might say.
Oh. We just unlocked a god.
I'm kind of glad he was sort of chill and didn't pull me apart like I was a food product in a Little Caesars ad. Also, I guess we were still going to help him or something because he provided me with another set of coordinates he wanted me to go to later, and yeah. Well, now that we've been freed from our cerebral shackles, it doesn't really change much because we're still on this planet. Which brought up another thing on the agenda I still needed to check off, which I totally didn't have to look up. We had to uncover that frozen Leviathan we kept hearing about from the very start of the game and cleanse it of any and all bacteria. Before that though, I went ahead and secured a bit of safety for when we were actually on the ice, making another pond with of course all the previous upgrades. Then I finally got to work on tracking down this Leviathan's lair, and not gonna lie, finding areas is pretty straightforward when you actually look up the coordinates. I stomped my way past this acacia forest into this ravine, and before I knew it, we were here. Sorry if I'm talking really fast, I'm on a time crunch and I really need to hurry up and my phone's going crazy. The very thing that started this whole scandalous runaround with the Kara and my sister was right in front of me. There was a lot to unpack here, including the rotting corpse of my sister, but never mind that, I had to get to scanning.
Oh yeah, this is fantastic. Great. Just how I wanted to spend my weekend.
Besides scanning the Leviathan and the Kara puzzles, I was kinda lost with what I was supposed to do here. But if we think back to about a few minutes ago, or if it's from my perspective a few hours ago, we got that PDA of Sam saying she stashed away a cure for this thing somewhere in a cave on the map. I don't even know if it was on the map actually. So why couldn't she just inject the Leviathan without having to cause substantial damage to anything and everything? I don't know. Don't ask me. Maybe I just didn't pay attention to a certain part of the story and I'm misconceptualizing things. Anyway, I decided to be a responsible individual and start picking fights with many of the apex predators that roamed here. This went on for almost an hour because the prawn turned out to be like really broken on land and I was just having a lot of fun.
Come here, boy. There he is. Come on, boy. Oh shit, okay, wait, he did a lot of damage to me. Oh! The ice swimmers no match for us. We have an army. Where is he? There he is. No, why are y'all running away? Cowards. Cowards. Oh shit,
After wreaking havoc on these poor animals, I begun tracking down the antidote, which was super confusing without having an actual signal.
Why does this kinda, is it just me or does this kinda look like the female version of KSI?
With that, I waddled back into the Leviathan's frostbitten domain to administer the serum into the medical Tesla bot to finally collect the long-awaited achievement. Though it did take me a solid minute to figure out how to turn it on, but never mind that, good riddance, Kara. Also, if these people weren't planning on curing this whole pandemic jump-starter, why was there a bot specifically made to assist the curing process? However, once that problem was resolved, another stepped forth. My Steam achievements weren't registering anymore, and I somehow didn't notice up until now. That's where this lovely thing called editing comes in. So yeah, keeping track of everything was pretty, easy. I spent like an hour trying to solve this issue to no avail, so I just left it at that and counted them anyway. I started keeping track of my remaining achievements on the wiki, I believe, which also let me see the ones I was missing. The 2 achievements left on my grocery list were the one for making the cold suit and beating the game. So I looked up how to harvest fur, and whipped out my spy penguin thingy with the same amount of intensity as Hilaire Thios whipping it out in front of Ares' daughter, and got to picking. Also, there was this cave with a baby snow stalker, which I didn't even know was a thing. Back at home, I made the entire cold suit set and still didn't end up getting an achievement despite it being one. I then sat in my living room for the time being, talking to little Timmy as we listened to some Try Hard Ninja, and decided it was finally time to end the game. Was I going to return him to his parents? Absolutely not. I'm taking him with me as a souvenir. Ready to end the game, I approach Alan and begin the final encounter, unlocking the final achievements in the process.
Do you still wish to leave with me? Beyond this teleporter, there is no turning back.
Sorry to butt in, but Premiere doesn't want to export the last bit of the video because, of course, it doesn't. Fuck you, Adobe. Suck my balls. I'll put a link in the description of someone else's POV of the ending if you want to see it. Really sorry I couldn't show you my perspective of it because, you know, fuck Premiere. Yeah!